All right. I'm just going to freestyle this one because this one has been on my mind for a while. But, when they talk about what a matrix is or what the matrix is, we can think of ourselves as being in this, like, simulated reality. Like, even all of the atoms are just, like, the pixels of our simulated reality. And we live in the Maya. That's all good and well. But it's even more condensed than that, too. We live in a society where things are simulated. Like, we don't live in a natural flow for the way humans are supposed to act and operate. And that's because we have been domesticated and our life force has been utilized to fuel industry, corporations, and capital growth. We are seen as capital. When employers and business owners pay us, they look at us as a capital investment. And then on top of that, you have, on a broader scale, left versus right in the political spectrum. You have companies that act and operate on lower drives, like our sex drive. Our attention span is being used and abused. And, people say, oh, this is energy harvesting and whatnot. This is what happens when we are divorced from the lower three chakras in our body. If we don't feel safe, our root chakra, we are going to fight against and combat the threat, or we are going to look for somebody to save us. And that means giving up our autonomy. And fighting the threat means we are going to do the work for somebody else to clear an obstacle, their obstacle. We see it as our obstacle because we believe that they are the other side, they're the enemy, when we are all in the same bracket. We all have the same enemy, which is all of the people who, run these systems looking at us like cattle. If you have a sexual addiction, if you have a pornography addiction, let's say, your information is being siphoned and used by porn companies and being sold, and you are constantly giving massive amounts of information, or you are paying somebody, let's say an OnlyFans model or somebody else like that, to, get your kicks. And then on top of that, you are, let's see, it's just one of those things where if you don't have these lower three chakras not even in check, if you're not in flow with who you are, which is what the shadow work is, how Carl Jung said, if you don't make the subconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will call it fate. That is true. If you don't have a relationship with the animal nature that you have, that you are, if you're not truthful with what that is, and if you don't support it the way that it's supposed to be supported, it will run your life and other people will run your life. This is why people are so triggered. This is why people have no attention span. This is why critical thought disappeared. This is why the systems of reliance on things like AI or external media to tell you what's right and what's wrong exists, you no longer are a human being. You're not considered a human being. You have been reduced to the animal that you are, and that animal has a bunch of bells and whistles that could be recorded and calculated to see what will make you tick. And with the advent of AI, it can recognize those patterns way quicker than the humans did. Humans took all these metrics, they took all of the data and tried to compile, or did compile, a list of triggers that could be exploited, but now AI will be able to do that even better. There was a creator on here that talked about how humans utilize the natural water cycle to power industry. He talked about how the runoff would go into the river, and the river has kinetic energy that you would build water wheels and utilize for whatever you need to utilize it for. And then it would evaporate and then condense in the air until there is precipitation, and the cycle continues. Or if you look at the battery has on one side a bunch of ions, and you can connect a wire to both ends of the battery, and the ions will flow through from the positive end to the negative end, and you can connect something to the wire to power it'll power that thing that you connect, a light bulb, a device, whatever. And so we have a bunch of energy down here in these lower three chakras. And, it's not like these upper three chakras are, underutilized. We utilize them, and the heart chakra balances them. It's the gateway to the upper three from the lower three. But it's not like we don't utilize these upper three chakras, and they don't have to be super spiritual for the people who are more secular minded. Just think of it as, thoughts, observation, and the ability to speak. But the reason why they're seen as upper three chakras is because they're more refined. They're less animal in nature. These are, the parts of us that we utilize as humans. We have language. Language is a human thing. Our prefrontal cortex gives us the ability to decide what should be done and what shouldn't be done, and it helps you to, kind of put the animal in its place, the animal that is you. And, thoughts are what we tap into as human. That's why we're called Homo sapiens. Sapien means, to think. We're cerebral animals. So that's why they're considered the higher three chakras. But as you know, some people act and operate like animals before they act and operate like humans. So when you start to run your own circuit, you will start to be able to be in control over your energy, your power, and you can funnel that into whatever you want to do. But if you're not, now you are just potential, all potential, and potential will be used either by you or by the companies. So that's the video that I have for today. I'm gonna see what I could do to continue to close the circuit, because I'm not perfect. I know where my I know where my weaknesses lie, but at the same time, the awareness helps you to understand what you need to do and what you shouldn't do. And also, self-forgiveness helps you to move toward utilizing your own energy for yourself instead of funneling it into what the companies want you to do. You know? So, alright, yeah.